So today I'm on the Bell Trail going to the crack at Wet Beaver. I didn't name it. I actually started at the Bruce Brockett Trailhead, which is for overflow parking, just to add a little bit of distance and elevation onto this hike. So this trail is really popular, mainly in the summertime, because there is a really good swimming hole at the end of this, at the crack. Those are in high demand in Arizona. And those are the kind of trails that kill people out here. You think about Angel's Landing or the Grand Canyon or something with a lot of exposure or fall risk, but the heat is what kills a lot of people. Especially these swimming hole type of a hike. It attracts a lot of people that aren't into hiking. They aren't that experienced. You see a picture of an amazing swimming hole and you think, hey, let's go there. And you and your buddies pack up a cooler and go to have a good time, and then realize, I gotta walk 6 miles in the sun with 500-600 feet of elevation gain, and they just aren't prepared. Now, I'm not being judgy, because this was actually Tina and my first backpacking trip in Arizona. And underprepared that's one way to put it. You can see here, I was really prepared for this. I had my blue jeans on, my straw beach hat that kept hitting my backpack. I got my Bear Grylls machete in case I need to get in a fight with a bear or something. And the backpack I was wearing was something Tina had in the garage from the 70s. Oh yeah, we were sleeping on yoga mats because those are really comfortable. I may or may not have even brought pineapple juice and grenadine and vodka out to make martinis. You gotta start somewhere, and this is where we started. It's interesting to see it again after 10 or so years, which, if you're thinking, wow, wait a second, you've only been doing this for 10 or so years? Yeah, that's all the longer we've been doing this. In that time, we've had so many amazing experiences, and there's nothing special about Tina and I, nothing extraordinary. We've just made it a priority to get out here and enjoy nature, and we've been able to do a lot. I don't say that to be conceited or anything. I say that because if you're sitting on the couch and you're watching videos of people going to these amazing places, get off the couch, go out on a hike, read up on the basics like clothing, water, food, wayfinding, that sort of thing. Do a little bit of research and get out there and do it. And the best way to learn this stuff is to do it. Anyway, this trail, there's nobody here today, but it's like a Tuesday at noon in October. Normally you expect crowds. You don't want to go this late in the day. It's hot. It's late October actually, and it's still hot. But there's a fee to day hike this. There's a kiosk at the trailhead where you can get your permit. Keep that in mind. And yeah, it's not all beautiful swimming holes. There's 6 miles of walking out in this. So since this is a trail that attracts a lot of beginner hikers, go through some of the safety basics. First off, somebody should know where you're going and when you're supposed to be back. So if something goes wrong, they know to send help for you. The other thing, obviously, it's a desert. You want SPF protection. It's an SPF shirt. I've been trying out different hats to try and give me a little bit of shade on my neck, my ears, my face. Heat is a whole other thing that people get in trouble all the time. And as much as Arizona hikers would like you to believe, it's not just tourists. Arizona hikers, we get ourselves into trouble also. The heat is very easy to underestimate. It is late October and it's maybe upper 70s, but this is full sun. It feels hot. So you have to take the heat very seriously. If you're not sure, practice in very short hikes. I mean, I'm talking like under a half a mile, and very populated areas with tons of water. Not just water, you need electrolytes. And then know what to do if you get into trouble with the onset of heat exhaustion. You need to cool down. In this instance, I'd get in the shade, I'd hop in the stream, anything to cool your body down as quickly as possible. Speaking of water, I know how much water I use in a hike, and that comes from experience that relates to my body, because we're all individuals, our bodies perform differently. So when you're starting out, you don't know. So bring double, triple, 4 times as much water as you think you need. You can always pour it out. But if you don't have enough, you got a problem. Now this hike is along a stream. You could filter water at a lot of spots. But I don't think a lot of beginner hikers have good water filtration systems, have those life straws. You got to think about what it's like using those. You have to drink directly out of the stream. So you can't bring the water with you. They're not ideal. They saved my ass a couple of times. They're better than nothing. But you might want to look into something a little more serious, like a Sawyer squeeze or something. I'm on the bell trail now. That's what you want to take to get to the crack. But odds are if you come here on the weekend or in better weather for swimming, you're going to be in overflow parking because it's very popular. So this says no camping, no campfires. I don't know if that means everywhere, but back in the day when we did it, you could camp here, but you had to go past the crack, climb up the other side of the canyon, and basically get up to the rim on the opposite side of the canyon to camp. That's how it used to be, but if you're thinking of backpacking it, check out the latest rules and regulations. Make sure you camp in the right spot. If you go out and do this, you need to know where you're going. Learn how to figure out which direction is north, which direction you should be heading, and just do some research on what you're going to hike before you go out there. There are GPS systems. I use Gaia on my iPhone. There's Onyx Backcountry, All Trails, a lot of options. Those work great, but you got to assume it's electronic. Can I find my way out if it fails? And you should be able to. So if you're going to get into hiking, you should learn how to read a map. If you want to come to these places, learn the basics of leave no trace. There's 7 principles. I'll link a video that I made about it in the description, but essentially, leave the place how you found it. Don't scratch your name in anything. Don't leave your garbage. I've even gotten to where start carrying out garbage other people leave in. Leave it how you found it. Take only photographs, leave only footprints. Sounds cliche, but that's the gist of it. You want to leave the place how it was so that everybody can enjoy it. I think that's really important, especially for these beginner places, because, oh, hey, look at that. Don't do that. A lot of people get very angry about this, and rightfully so. I mean, this is our public lands. It's for everybody, so you don't want to spoil it. And you get angry when people do. But I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and assume that most people just don't know. So that's why I'm saying, if you want to come here, leave no trace. Look up Leave No Trace, actually, if you want to get into the outdoors. Take you about a 5-minute read, and it'll help us all out in the long run, because, you know, knowing is half the battle. The other battle is implementation, but it should be pretty easy to clean up after yourself. We all kind of learned that at a young age. Anyway, I'm almost there, so I'm going to keep hiking. So the trail starts out flat for pretty much the first couple of miles. when you see red rocks on your left looking up canyon, it climbs up a couple 100 feet above the creek bed, and that's where the work comes in. Still kind of breathing heavy. It's not really that much work, but it all depends on your conditioning and experience level. When I first did this years ago, Tina and I thought this was Mount Everest. Now it's not so bad. I'm just doing this as a quick day hike to get in a little exercise. That stuff builds up. The more you hike, the better you are at hiking. And that's something that you want to think about when you're reading a trail guide or something. You don't know what the author's experience level is, and he doesn't know what yours is. So what's easy to them may be difficult to you, and you're just going to have to find that out over time and experience. But keep it in mind, because I've gotten myself in trouble reading beta from some very advanced outdoors people saying it was no big deal. It was a big deal to me, just not to them. All right, that's the crack at Wet Beaver. There's really not that much to it. I haven't talked a whole lot about the hike itself because it's 3 miles out, 3 miles back, and really easy for wayfinding. It's pretty flat the first 2 miles, not very scenic alongside the creek though, although it's tough to get access to the creek. And then it starts climbing up and you see the red rocks, and it gets to be more work, but a lot prettier. Just remember, after you've had fun all day, swimming, that you've got to hike this 3 miles back. I know a lot of people get in trouble, especially at Fossil Creek. They climb down to the Bob Bear Trail to the dam, and then they have like, I don't know, 1,500 feet to climb up to get out, and they have to do that in the full sun. Wet Beaver's somewhat like that, but not nearly as hard, but still beautiful, and swimming holes are hard to find out here. That's it. Heading back to the truck and setting up camp. We're done here. One last tip. Cooler with cold drinks and comfortable shoes in your car. At the end of the hike, it's awesome. You'll thank me.